if so, the thing is that if you get sick, what should you do? Eh, the research on vitamin C really is not beneficial. Zinc is better than vitamin C, but it makes you nauseous. Figured that out the hard way. There's no research that the only research that helps your immune system is zinc. The only documented research. People for thousands of years have been saying vitamin C cures illnesses. And the only thing it really cures is scurvy. But what if you do drink extra vitamin C or take extra vitamin C? Is that bad for you? Oh, that's good. I'll need to remember that. Hey, just in case you have a wedding. Okay. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't bet on that myself, but anyway, I was gonna say that's not a real good plan. I'd say plan L. Okay. But but what it can do is vitamin C helps transport other nutrients into your body better. So vitamin C, when you take vitamin C, if you take another multivitamin and vitamin C mixed in, you absorb more of the other nutrients. So it's an active transporter. So vitamin C is not bad. Too much of it can evidently cause problems, and it can cause stomach problems, but it does help absorb other drugs. So maybe it's absorbing other minerals that you would take that help. Zinc's the only thing that really makes a difference. And I tried taking that when I had the flu, and I got so nauseous because of the zinc. Just picture drinking out of an old water fountain, what it tastes like. That's zinc, yeah. It didn't help me at all for H1N1 that I got like 2 weeks ago. I just down. And I get my flu shot religiously. My buddy Jim never gets it because he has a daughter with transition, with autism, and they're completely anti-vaxxers. They get the flu every year. It's the first time I've got the flu since stomach flu, but that was something I was my own fault. Okay, anyway. So, anyway, so just please start being conscious of this. If someone next to you is coughing and sputtering, really hard not to touch your face. Really hard. I was making jokes to my poor stat students yesterday. One girl was chewing off her acrylic in class. One girl was eating, basically has a little box of like juju fruit, like the little gummy fruity thingies, and she had real long fingernails, so she was stabbing one with her fingernail from the bottom of the box and scooping it out with the long fingernails. And then my stats course must have been extremely boring yesterday. Somebody was eating a sandwich. I ate a sandwich. Did I wash my hands? No. We're using an open computer lab. Yes. All the computer technicians in there are freaking out, and they're running around with little boxes of hand sanitizer because they're like, open lab. Okay, so if for some reason the heat is turned up to 86 in all the buildings over there, that's why. Because the viruses don't live outside of the body at warm temperatures very well. Because the little water molecules evaporate and the... Okay. Whereas Trump says, heave a pension charge. We're fine. Okay, so how do you see... So in order to just to redo this over and over and over again, okay, here is the process of vision, okay? Here's the process of vision. When I say, how do you see, that's extremely complicated. So if I ask a question like, what do the rods and cones see? What do rods and cones see? Sort of. Well, cones detect lightness and darkness too. There's a key word. Keyword. Oh, I'm going to plague everybody. What's a lumen? Written in a very low contrast. Sorry about that. What's a lumen? A lumen is a density of light measurement. Hey Google, how many lumens is the flashlight on this phone? Okay, so this is 100 lumens according to my phone. Right? That's 100 lumens. How much do you think that these bright lights have? I would say maybe even 10,000. Because when I turn these bad dogs up, wherever the projector thing is here, if I turn these on full bore, you can actually feel the heat in some of these things. I have a bike light that I use when I ride my bicycle at night that is a 750 lumen light. And you want a bicycle light that's bright. Much better. You want a bicycle light that's bright because if you're riding your bicycle in the dark, the light has to shine far enough forward for your brain to process what you're seeing by the time you get to it. If you only have a 150 watt lumen light, like we used to, you can only ride about 10 miles an hour. Because by the far the distance a light would shine would reflect back to your eye. In that time it would reflect back, you'd be past where you're actually looking at. So if you got over 15 or 20 miles an hour or faster, you outrun your headlights. Have you ever watched professional car racing? Like rally racing? They have a million headlights on their cars. And they're crazy bright. Off-road trucks, insanely bright headlights. 10,000 lumens. So that they can go really fast across the desert and see what's ahead. Okay. So these are lumen detectors. They measure the density of light. How do they measure the density of light? What happens when we shine a light onto these little discs? What happens when we shine a light on these discs? Sitting right here. Close the sodium channel. All right, it's right there. So if I close a sodium channel, my rod or my cone stops inhibiting, stops sending signals. So each of my little photoreceptors, each little photoreceptor is measuring the density of lumen. The more photoreceptors, the more the cell is inhibited. The more photoreceptors are activated, the longer the cell is inhibited. I should try to find our old digital camera. We have a camera that has this, like, before the iPhones came out, we had a really nice Canon digital camera, and it's got this badass flash on it. You flash it, it goes boom, and everybody can't see. How come you can't see anything once you get flashed in the eyeball? The entire world just got equal lumen. With the entire peripheral vision at the same luminosity, you can't see anything. And it takes a second or two for it to reset to see the difference. How do I see this little badly drawn arrow? describe the contrast of this in the image. So there's higher luminosity here as opposed to right next to it. Because there's higher luminosity here, the photoreceptors where these lights are reflecting onto your eyeball are inhibiting more than the one sitting next to it. What about all these little subtle lines in here? The darker parts are being less inhibited than the lighter parts. And so it's all relative. You can see the lines on either side of this one because this is being illuminated more than that, which is more than that. So no matter what, your eyes are really just seeing the density of light. We don't really see single photons of light. We see relative densities of light. And by changing the ambient light in the room, it changes the relative density in the room of light. Okay, so the horizontal cells are going back and forth between the neurons. They're going laterally between the neurons. And they send, what does an IPSP mean? Inhibitors. They're inhibiting the ones next to them. So I will put my little green dot right here. Because I can reach it. Okay? So my little green dot right here is shining a particular color of light on the screen. That particular color of light is reacting to certain cones in your eyes more than other certain cones. Can I change the color of this dot? What if I do this? Is it still green? But what did I do? That's the orange. What did I do? So different density of green. Different density of green. So I'm going to put an orange circle around this. What happened to the color of the green? So I changed the density of the colors so I still see the green, but now I have an orange, now I have a yellow, now I have a darker green. Let's add one more color here. It'll make some purple. So what happened now? Changing density. If I keep changing the density, I can keep adding more colors to this that all I'm doing is changing the relative firing rates of each of the particular cells. Some cones respond to certain colors. We call the opponent process colors. What happens when you mix red and green together? There's no really good red here. This is about as red as I can get. What happened? Well, let me put the pink back on top of this and see what happens. I didn't expect that to happen. What's interesting is that red and green are opponent colors to each other. Red and green are the exact opposite firing. So they have a very high contrast between the two, red and green. Is anybody here red-green colorblind? Oh, you are? Cool. What color does this look like? But what does it look? How would you describe it to someone without knowing what colors it is? Yeah. So you can see pinkish colors. But what about when I drew in the red? Oh, sorry, let's go to highlighter. What about that? What do you get? If you have the red-green colorblind, you're missing a pigment in your eyeball. Okay, and by missing the pigment, you can't tell. Let me see if it, I don't have a very good Kelly green in here, which is technically the exact opponent process. This is the only green that I have. So what does that look like? Messing with the four colorblind. Sorry. So it's hard to say what it is because it just doesn't have a particular identifying color. And so, do you notice it throughout the world? You don't see red and green? Right, so you get the idea of what it is. It's called the gestalt, but you don't have the literal meaning of exactly what it is. That's the sensation perception aspect of it. Okay, so that's cool. Thank you. But so let's get out of the neuroscience of this, and let's get bigger, because bigger is always better if you're a Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs fan. Okay, when the brain gets information from the rods and cones, it gets information from areas of rods and cones. These are called receptive fields. Receptive fields are focused around the fovea. In the fovea, we have some very small receptive fields. In fact, right at the fovea, you have single cones activating neurons. Single cones. As you get toward the periphery, what happens to the number of photoreceptors per receptive field? What happens to the density of photoreceptors as you get toward the periphery? Less. Become less. If I change the density of light here, what do you perceive? Now, you can't even tell green. You see a light there in your periphery where that is. If I move the dot from here to here, what do you see? If you see a flash here, then a flash there, what does your brain say that flash is? If it's a flash, it's not a line, you say that's moving. Why would you say that's moving? The only way from a light density to change from one receptive field rapidly to the next is for something to actually be moving. We could actually pull up a video called apparent motion. Apparent motion is where it looks like you have something that's actually moving. I think I can do it with the yo-yo. How can I make this so that it looks like it's one solid thing as opposed to an individual thing? I don't want it to go flying off my hand if I was fighting the thing on my finger makes it good. But does it look like it's getting longer? Like the yo-yo stretching itself out? I can see it. So it'd be better if it lit up, but it doesn't. Okay. So, but when you try to think about how your eyeballs process the information, the periphery is just seeing movement. That's it. No details, just movement. Even the lines are very vague in the periphery. In the fovea, the lines are very centered. So why do we have our eyeballs focusing on the center? On our fovea? But why? the lines. We can see the finest detail of lines if we're using our fovea. And as we get back to the occipital lobe, this is why I like to start here and end here. When you get back to the occipital lobe, each column in the brain responds to a receptive field orientation. It doesn't matter if you're any way your head's oriented. It doesn't matter. It's the relative firing rate of the neurons next to each other. The relative firing rate of the neurons next to each other. And it's so, if one neuron is firing and the one next to it is firing, our brain automatically sees a line at that angle. If the relative position of those two neurons are firing is at the same angle to each other in your eye, you will see that particular line. If you have an astigmatism, however, what happens with the ability to see lines? It gets weird. You can't see some lines. You can't see some lines because the eyes are not focusing on the same angles of receptive field depth. Each column responds to an angle of receptive fields. So each column activates only when a certain angle is activated. And so it's like trying to really visualize this is really difficult. Why is it hard to visualize this? We can do a much simpler one that makes a lot more sense than vision. Why we spend so much time with vision, though? That's our human primary sense organ, is our vision. For us, that is how we collect most of our information about the world. We're really not good at other sensations. We're really not good at other sensations. For example, sound. What is sound? Okay, I'm going to write the word waves here, but waves I don't see any waves. I love surfing. I actually stopped surfing with board. I like body surfing now. I have a little hand plane, which is like a little piece of wood that you hold, and you get in the wave, and you... But what are waves? Come on. Well, I want ocean waves first. What are ocean waves? Yeah, but think about, what is a wave? Oh, it's a pile of water. Think about it. It's a pile of water. What causes waves? Well, how does a current cause a wave? You haven't really thought about waves enough, have you? You got to spend some time thinking about waves. Waves are awesome. Let's go sit at the beach and watch them. Waves are caused by wind. Right? When the wind blows on the water forms a little pile. The harder the wind, the higher the pile. But everybody knows, can you make a stack of water? So if I smush the water together here, next time you have a swimming pool, try to make a little pile of water. When you do this, what's created on either side? A dip. Once you make this pile of water, as soon as you're done putting force on it, what happens to that pile of water? It goes down. And when it goes down, it causes it causes the water next to it to go up. I highly suggest you go find a puddle and throw a rock in it. What do you see? Where the rock initially hits, there's a little ridge of water around that rock, and then where the rock goes in, all the water bounces back and goes whoop, back up. Kerplunk. That little drip of water comes up and falls back down and causes another little wave of water. And as that initial wave of water slowly moves out, what happens to the size of that wave? It slows down, and eventually the waves get smaller. Okay, so this is how sound works, except we're not using wind. What are we using to cause sound? Well, can you tell what this is made out of? Versus, why does that make it? What sound is that? Metal, okay? Versus, so close your eyes. Okay, this one. I see the white parts of your eyes. That means you can see, so quit it. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do another one here. Can you hear a difference between all three? So I'm going to tell you. Now I'm going to label the sounds for you. Okay. Here is wood. Okay. Here's plastic. Here's metal. Okay, so now you have a label for that sound. Okay, close your eyes. I want to so you can see. What is this one? Raise your hand if you think it's plastic. Raise your hand if you think it's wood. Okay, cool. What about this one? Why is that noticeably? The sound is the same, but what's different? I can totally hear it. The plastic bounces. The wood doesn't bounce. How come the metal is unique? What does the metal have to it that the other ones don't? This makes a really exciting recording. The frequencies are not the same. So even though the volume is about the same, the frequencies are different when I drop them. The wood and the plastic sound very similar, but those are different qualities of the sound. Did you hear the difference? Yeah. Okay. So, interesting to me. Okay. So, as we look at this, our energy for sound is not caused by wind; it's caused by air compression, which technically is wind. Right. We measure the frequency of a wave based on the peak to peak. We measure a frequency of a wave based on peak to peak. We measure the amplitude of a wave based on the height of the peak. Every morning I listen to the surf report at 7:20 on the KPBS, the Scott Bass moron. He was like, well, the sky is a beautiful orange sherbet flavor with a creamsicle finish. And like, what the hell are you talking about? Tell me how big the waves are. Okay. But it's funny because he goes, the waves are measured, 2 to 3 feet, is what he says. Then he goes, which means chest to shoulder and some head-high set. How can 2 to 3 feet be chest to head high? The amplitude is measured generally from the midline, but when you're sitting on a surfboard, you measure the wave from the top all the way down to where the bottom of the water is. A couple times I've been out surfing on days that are way too big that I should never have been out surfing on, where I had a big old 9'8" surfboard, and I'm paddling up a wave, and it's like 3 paddles uphill before I get to the top. And like when you stand on top of a wave that's about 7 feet high, how far are you looking down? Like, look, it feels like you're looking down from up there. Because the 7-foot wave, and then there's another 7-foot trough in front of it, and I'm 6 foot tall on top of that. That's when you pee in your wetsuit a little bit. I went down one wave like that. I went down, and I made it, it's a tourmaline, so the waves are shallow. They're friendly waves. And I made it down, and I didn't even turn. I just went straight. All the way to the beach. I got off, I'm like, I'm done! And my friend, who's like a really good surfer, goes, wow, that was scary. Why'd you bring me out a day like this? I don't even know how I paddled out. But they were really friendly waves. High tide, mushy, perfect. But when we start looking at this idea of air compressions run like this. You have a bunch of high compression waves followed by a bunch of low compression waves. High compression waves followed by low compression waves. Air pressure is what we're actually hearing. So the physics of this is pretty simple. Whenever we have high pressure, it puts a lot of force. Whenever we have low pressure, it removes the force and pulls it back. Okay? Inside your ear, I've got some much better graphics that I will show you in a few minutes. Inside your ear, you have this membrane. Okay? This membrane is the thing that you're jabbing that Q-tip up against. Please do not jab said Q-tip up against this. I'm going to draw a better Q-tip. Looks like a dinosaur of some sort. There's a Q-tip. So why do you have this thing called an ear drum? You don't want to let good stuff inside your ear. Like, you don't want like earwax and pencils and bugs and bacteria to get inside your ear, because what happens if you get bacteria inside that ear? Well, you're not screwed, you just got an ear infection. Awful. When I was a kid, I got ear infections all the time. You have these little tubes that you should drain the fluid out of your ear. Inside your ear is part of your sinuses. You have fluid back there. And it should dribble out down the back of your neck. Mine's itching now just talking about it. Some people, however, are born with tubes that are shaped like this. Anybody have to have ear tubes put in as a kid? You did? Yeah. Do you have the tubes that face up? Yay! So whenever you get sick, you probably get a sinus infection. Yeah. So no matter how much I can rinse my nose out, I love my neti pot. I get sick, I rinse out my nose with the warm saline. It's so great. You just kind of lean over, and it just kind of pours out the other side. Then a couple giant Smurfs come out. Yeah. So satisfying. If anybody's ever gone surfing on a big day, you get completely annihilated by the waves. You lean over to tie your shoes like 3 hours later. Nice saline rinse coming out. Okay, sorry. But your eardrum is there for a very important reason. Okay? It keeps the... I'm going to get rid of the Q-tip now. I can't find the button. Get rid of the Q-tip. Okay, what it does is it allows sound waves to be collected by these big things over here. Animals that have very good hearing have what kind of ears? Very large radar ears. What they're doing is they're collecting the compressions and rarefactions in the air. The subtle vibrations in the air are focused by the shape of our ears. And when you have these ears, you can actually, if you put your ears forward, you can everything kind of gets louder. You can actually hear better. Or maybe we could all just tape our ears forward so we pay attention better. Okay? And if you can't hear something, can you also do this to hear better? Yeah, it actually works. There's really cool things that they have on the NFL, the parabolic microphones. Everybody seen these? It's a microphone with this radar dish around it, and you can just point it at somebody and hear what they're saying from a long distance away. Because it focuses all of the sound waves coming from them, sound waves being compressions and refractions of the air, and blocks out all the other noise. And by blocking out the other noise, you can hear very faint words very far away. Anyway, so inside this eardrum, you have these cool little bones. The hammer, anvil, and stirrup, don't really care what the official names are. But what happens is, when air presses on this tympanic membrane, your eardrum, it moves these bones, and they tap on this window. It's a hard membrane. And I'm going to draw this not to scale, but I'm going to draw it how it actually is. And then we'll show you what it really looks like here in a minute. So air is moving back and forth outside your ear. Your Q-tip is scraping up against the outside of this thing. And air is bouncing back and forth. And as the air bounces back and forth, it is tapping this window against a hard surface. So these little bones are transmitting the air frequencies into mechanical resonance. Mechanical resonance. Anybody ever stand in front of a bass at a rock concert? Like in front of a speaker? What do you feel? Vibrating, especially in your stomach. It's a nice big area, and you feel the bass. That you're feeling the compressions and refractions of the air. But all the subtle, and you won't hear the little stuff anymore because it's all blown out by that point. But with a very subtle frequency differences, we're tapping on this window. Inside of this thing called a cochlea, there's fluid. Now, unless you're an auto person, you cannot compress a liquid. How come you can't compress a liquid? Yeah, it has a consistent density. You can't, unless you change its temperature, you can't compress a liquid. Yes, if you get it colder, you can make it more dense, and if you make it warmer, you can make it less dense. But our bodies stay about the same temperature, so you're not going to compress a liquid. And this fluid in here is actually kind of interesting. So I'm going to draw a membrane. Okay, there's a little space at the end of this membrane. So when my little hammer taps on this window, the fluid is going to flow this way. Because the membrane is hard, I'm going to tap on it, it's going to push the fluid. The fluid's going to push all the way down this long pipe. And then it's going to push back and push against the membrane on the other side. Push, point, 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 point. Following this so far? Air pressure causing changes in air pressure is going to cause this membrane to wiggle. The membrane wiggles, causing a little hammer to tap, 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 tap. So now it's tap, tap, tapping on this fluid-filled cochlea. The cochlea is going to cause the fluid inside the cochlea to move. This is really complicated stuff. And then the fluid, I'm going to zoom in now. This is not exactly how it looks, but it's a good way to understand it. It's covered in kelp. No kelp is actually in your ear. These are called hair cells. Hair cells. Why do you think they're called hair cells? They look like hair. So picture this as kelp. When the fluid goes, what does the hair do? Way. And when the fluid flows back, they go, way. They're doing this constantly. So I'm going to zoom back out again so you can kind of see this. So this whole membrane, called the basilar membrane, is covered with hair cells. Hair cells are so much easier to understand than photoreceptors. Hair cells make sense. They are little chapped lips. This is actually what a hair cells actually look like. So the hairs aren't actually just one hair on each hair cell. There's like 3 or 4 hairs on each hair cell. When I bend the hair cells, I wish I had a stick of some sort. I usually have a meter stick somewhere. When I bend a hair cell, I'll use this nice pencil. This is actually a nice pencil. I won't break it. If I bend the cell, it's going to open up a channel at the base. It's like a chapped lip. You smile, you have a chapped lip, what happens? Split. Ow. You keep your mouth closed for a while, it feels good, then you forget, and you smile again. Ow. And you close it, it heals up again, and you sneeze. Ow. So every time I move the hair cell a little bit, sodium comes in. What if I bend it a lot? More comes in. So if I draw this hair cell in the bent state, we have a tremendous amount of sodium flowing in. It's kind of a lie, it's actually potassium, but we'll just let it go and just get the general idea and get reality a little bit later. Okay? So if I bend this more, I get more of a signal from this hair cell. What if I don't bend it? Nothing. What if I bend it backwards? Sodium flows in because the hair cells bend either way. So if I move it, it sends a signal. If I don't move it, it doesn't send a signal. Are you so far so good? So the hair cells are what we call mechanical receptors. They're mechanical receptors. What causes the sodium to flow in? Movement. Think of them very similar to the photoreceptors in your eye. The thing that allows the photoreceptors to fire is actually photons, light hitting it. So technically it's also mechanical receptors. Okay. So I'm going to draw a wave in here now. You hear a sound of a certain frequency. Let me make a certain frequency. Make the contrast go away. Hear that? Middle C, 440 hertz. So what I'm doing is I generate a frequency at that particular tone, and it vibrates the hair cells in your ear. When the hair cells vibrate in your ears, let me show you what this is happening. I'm going to put the cycle like this. Okay? Wherever the hair cells are being bent, here, here, and here, the neuron is sending a signal. Wherever the cells are not being bent, in between, what's it sending? Not being bent means no signal. Following this so far? So the cool thing about this, it's a single tone. Right? So I'm going to drop it down to 220. Let's drop it down to the octave here. Is it like cut screen? Let's do 220. Come on. I might be able to type it in there. Oh, I missed. Oh, close enough. Hear it get louder? Gets quieter again. We're in mind control now. Wait till you hear it till it gets louder again. I'm interested in what you're hearing. Okay. Did you hear it get louder all of a sudden? I'm not changing the volume, but what can you hear? I've never done that before. That's so cool. Okay. I've always known you could, and I just didn't realize you could use them. Okay, sorry. What are you hearing? Notes. You're hearing notes. So what happens when it's between notes? It goes down, right? It doesn't mean anything. But so think about this. At certain frequencies, does it sound bigger? And other frequencies, it's hitting some. So we could actually go through and map out the notes by mapping out the frequencies, just by mapping out what you hear, just by the sound frequencies. Now this might cause somebody to be a little bit annoyed. Okay. Now, listen carefully. Let's see if I can get it to vibrate. Mix master wireless. We'll go right up to 300 again and see if we can get one really close. Ooh, that's nice. I like that. As I'm getting closer to the same frequency, what's happening to the volume? And as I get further away, how come it's not as loud? Okay. What happened to the volume? When I got to 348, it was really loud. But then when I got past 348 on the other one, it got... Why did it get quieter? Oh, come on. This is good stuff. So I'm going to put a competing frequency on here. What if I have a frequency that's like this? It's in red, which you can't see. I'll turn it to bright blue. I'm trying to make it up. Here's a competing frequency. What happens? They cancel each other out. A muffler works by putting in a bunch of angles so the sound has to bounce in a bunch of different directions. So a muffler in a car, if you ever take one off and look at it, we have done this, but it's got a bunch of all these little angled pieces of metal in it, all sorts of different angles. So as opposed to all the sound coming out at once, like a backfire, bang, all the sound comes out at different times, so that it spreads the sound out over a longer period of time. But noise-canceling headphones, they're neat. Noise-canceling headphones play the opposite sound of what you're hearing. Mazda, when they came out with the rotary engine for race cars, was causing their drivers, I was trying to say pilots, but their drivers to become deaf because it was so loud. Because the rotary engine, the valves pretty much exit the engine, so you hear all the explosions and it's so loud they couldn't hear it. So what they did is they started playing the opposite of the sound over the speakers in the headrest of the car. So when the person's driving, they're in a bubble of zone of quiet that matched the sound of the car. They had a noise-canceling car. All the neighbors hate the person, but the person inside is perfectly quiet. Because wherever the air is being compressed, the sound that they're playing is the opposite, the refraction of that. That's how noise-canceling headphones work. They listen to the world around you and play the opposite sound of the world around you through the ears. So it basically filters out the sound by filtering out. It's like if I throw a ball at you, if you just hold your hand out flat and catch it, what happens to all that force? Swat. But if you catch it and move your hand with it, you don't feel the force of the throw nearly as much. Okay, so there's a couple different ways that you actually hear things. One of them is called the place theory. That if I hear this certain particular place in my ear, I hear certain frequencies. Like, for example, how do you hear that sound? Whoa, stop it. Okay. How do you hear that sound? Is that causing air to move in your ear? Is anybody not able to hear? Can you hear this one? Okay, so he has cochlear implants. Sorry, I'm out of here. Okay. Those are the things behind his ear. So he has, were you born without, let me turn this off because it's bugging me. Were you born without the nerves? So if he doesn't have hair cells, they're dead. Well, they're not there anymore. The body's digested them at this point. Yeah. So in his cochlea, he ain't got one. So the air moves through his ears and still bounces on the tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane's tipping away happily. I had a student, Cynthia, last year who got an infection in her ears, and she lost the little bones in her ear. So she didn't have little bones. So what could she hear? Nothing. But she didn't go cochlear implant. They actually have little synthetic bones that they've actually put in there, little 3D printed ear bones that they can put in there and replace the ones that hers were killed through bone infection. Okay, so you don't have ear cells. So where are the frequencies being generated from? Yeah. No, but so the microphone, so his cochlea is back here. Is it actually implanted in your skull?
So it kind of looks like this on the inside without education. So you have this magnet, and then the wire goes through the circle, and I guess the wire can and a magnet.
That's so cool. And so it can hear, but so does he hear the same? Not with one implant out, but does he? Okay. Okay. So why would the one side not work as well as the other side? I'm getting it right. So your right side works well, but your left side doesn't. Okay, so the right side connects to which side of your brain? The left side. So the left side of his auditory cortex is probably very well developed. The right side, where his left ear was, it's not as developed because when you got it when you were 11. So his brain had already grown a lot in that time. And so you learn to hear the different sounds Can you hear that one? So it's harder to activate the low frequencies. It's harder to hear the low frequencies because that's where it is along the cochlea. But we can't make a wire that goes through and hears all the individual hair cells. But I can broadcast the frequencies down the nerve. So let's hear when you can start to hear it well. So that's so quiet, it's weird. It's a really good echolocating one, isn't it? Oh, okay. There we go. That's both ears now. You get tired of zooming in. But the higher the frequency you get, it's called the Volley principle. It's so cool. I'm so excited to accept this. His work by the Volley principle, the energy going down the nerve. How often do you have to recharge the implant? 12, 14 hours. Do you recharge them or replace them? Okay. So basically what he's doing is he uses the electricity from the battery to stimulate the nerve in the frequency of the sound that's coming in, which only works in the higher frequency range. It doesn't work in the low frequency range. You can't stimulate the nerves at a low frequency because the way the low frequency works is the where on the cochlea they're being stimulated, but the higher frequencies work with a volley, with the amount of current coming down the wire. What's really interesting though, since you've had that since you were really young, there's no difference in the way he hears and the way we hear, except less frequency. But you would notice that there's less frequency. No. You don't notice because you've never had those in your own belt, in your sensory perceptive window. Yeah. Yeah, everybody has their own consciousness. Everybody has their own reality and how you perceive and understand the world. So, understanding the ears, I was going to bring my bicycle in today. I have a bicycle that I jump over stuff with. And it has a lot to do with balance. I can remember to bring it in on Thursday. I got to dig it out of the shed. I haven't been riding it for a while, so it might be pretty rusty. How does balance work? So you have canals inside your ear. They're called otolith organs. Cool. So I can zoom in on my otolith organs. It's hard to draw this, and I have better pictures. But you have one canal that is a circle like a hula hoop going around you this way. That's this one. Let me make this a little bit zoomy, and I'll change the colors of it to another blue, which is the same. So you have this one right here. Nice contrast color. So it's like a hula hoop. At the center of all of these, you have hair cells. But the hair cells have a crystal at the end. Have you ever seen a kidney stone? I'm sorry. They look like that. They're little crystals. Yeah, it's awesome. My friend Kyle passed them. Be careful, please. Okay. Awfulness. Okay. He never drank water, though. Only drank iced tea. And he's an athlete. Drink plenty of water, too. Okay. So now, you have all of these hair cells in the center of this canal. Let's just talk about this one first. Okay? So, did the hair cells in your balance system get messed up by whatever killed the other hair cells? No, okay. That's not that. They're very similar kinds of hair cells, that's why. So if it was a virus that got the hair cells, it may have gotten both. But with these otolith organs, so picture a, again, I need my meter stick for this, but try to think of, so the way these work, this is going to be really lame, is, okay. So can I balance this on top of here? Okay, so now, what happens if I move? Okay, is this attached? No. So watch what happens if I try to move at all. What happens? Does it predictably fall? Well, so which way is it falling? The opposite direction. So if I think about this, and as soon as I move, the hair cell bends one way or the other. And if the top part's not attached very well, if I move, it's going to go the opposite direction. So picture this as a hair cell with these little sodium receptors, or actually potassium. Anyway, at the bottom. So whenever, if I move, my whole body moves this way, which way does a hair cell move? The opposite way. Okay, this is something that's actually kind of fun. But these receptors are oriented in a way so that when I rotate back and forth this way, what do? What are those hair cells doing? Whenever I stop and change direction, the hair cells send a volley of signals. So if I spin in one circle, when I stop, then I send a volley of signals. When I spin the other way, when I stop, they send a volley of signals. So how do you know you're spinning? Okay, how do you know you're spinning? When the frequencies of these hair cells start and stop tell you that you're spinning. Hopefully this hasn't happened to you, but how many people in here have ever gotten a spin from drinking? So, what does it feel like? Bad? Yeah, and my favorite thing is when I've never had this in my entire life until when I graduated college. We had a big party. We were drinking champagne, and we made pretzel nachos, as opposed to corn chips. These big Bavarian pretzels. Epic. Cleaning up the next day was not good though. Anyway, so I'm sitting on the couch, and I go to sit up, and the world just kept sitting up. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. This is awesome. And I'm spinning all over the place, and I realize, oh no, what happens when you activate all of the otolith organs at once? It's caused disorientation and nausea. The spins are generally just precursor to barfing. So if I send alcohol into my system, what does it do to my hair cells? It inhibits the hair cells. So you can't tell when your motion is starting or stopping as well. That's why they make you do the sobriety test. Because people, when they're drunk, their balance is a little bit off. You can actually tell if someone's drunk just by the way they stand up. Why do they keep having to adjust how they're standing? Their hair cells are not stimulated until you have a major motion. If you ever want to barf, for whatever reason, okay, ready? Watch. You have to activate all three otolith organs at the same time. I'm not going to do it until I throw up. I am totally not just going to be okay. So this way right here is one set of otolith organs. This way is another set of otolith organs. And the third way is this way. So in order to throw up, yes. Okay. Again, I'm not going to do it to the point where I throw up, but if you get motion sick, if you are motion sensitive, sit in a spinny office chair, have someone spin you around. Do you have to go fast? No, but then keep changing the orientation of your head, left to right. You can even do it side to side. Just turn your head back and forth, side to side, and eventually you can get yourself to the point where you're extremely dizzy and it feels like you're going to throw up. So how do you get? Where does the balance go in the brain? What part of the brain is where balance is? The otolith organs are the easiest sense to understand. What does balance mean? So think about it. So if I try to balance, get my street pose going here. So if I try to balance, can I balance on one foot pretty well? Yes, I'm actually pretty good at it. If I can reach my foot today, my back's super sore. But I can stand on one foot for a long period of time. Okay. What do you think? Why can I stand on one foot for a long time and balance? I practice. Okay, like three goes, whatever that's called, the curl. Fawn, I don't know. Okay, I spend a lot of time practicing balance. I won't practice my headstand, so my shirt will pull up and my fat will hang out. I don't want to do that. But, nothing. You know, 20 pounds, then I'll get skinny. Okay, my fat will still hang out. But balancing is something that's really important as you get old. Balance is something you should really focus on as a young person as well. So Dramamine inhibits the action of these. She probably is just, as you get older, everything gets a little crusty on you. Because like you go squeeze your skin, and the skin doesn't bounce back like it used to. Your hair cells in your ears, when you're young, you're listening to heavy metal at 7 million decibels going, yeah! And when you're old, you're like, ow! Wow. Okay? You used to love bright lights, go outside at the beach all day without sunglasses as a kid, as an adult. How could you go without sunglasses? Kids, wear sunscreen! What are you getting, sunburn? Yeah. As you get older, you're not as flexible as you are when you're younger. And so, like, I used to go on all the roller coasters with the kids, go on the teacups. We would, like, do the head thing on the teacups to see who could bark. And it was fun. Yeah. Yeah, so it's something about that combination of sequences of motions is what probably triggers you. Like, so up until, I think I turned probably close to 40, I could do anything and never feel nauseous. I never got seasick. It was great. But man, when I hit something right around 40, we went to Disneyland. We were at California Adventure, and we went on the California Screaming. Now it's the Incredible something. Okay? I went on that, and I love roller coasters. I'm like, we're right in line. This is awesome. And I finish it, and I'm like, I turned pale. I was sweating. I'm like walking about 10 feet behind my family the whole time going, and they're like, what's wrong with you? That was awesome. I'm like, I could not handle the rest of the day. My friend's a CHP officer. He's actually retired now, but they have Police Officer Day at Knott's Berry Farm, where all public servants, you can get in and they give you like really cheap tickets. You can go to Knott's Berry Farm. We all went on that, and I went on rides all day, and it was fine. The year after I went on it, I couldn't handle more than two rides, and I was done. It's because of those hair cells. As you get older, those hair cells start crustying up a bit. So how do you okay, real quick before we go. What is balance? Well, the hair cells are just the sensory organ of balance. But what is balance? Well, the fluid's inside these channels. And as the fluid flows around the channels, it bends the hair cells. But that's the sensory perception of balance. That's your sensory perception of orientation. But what is balance? Let's see if I can do this. I'll let you try it. So what is balance? It's flexing muscles to maintain your body posture in a position that it is. I can do this for quite a long time with my eyes open. Wait, okay. I can do this for quite a long time with my eyes open, but if I close my eyes and I practice this, what happens? I lose my balance because my muscles can't respond fast enough to maintain my balance. But if you practice balance, your slow motion kung fu in the park, because there's a whole bunch of sloth ninjas that are about to attack. You have to be ready. But if you do Tai Chi, does it help you find your center? Yes. And yoga and all sorts of other wonderful things. And running. Those are all wonderful ways of finding balance. Okay, we'll start with that next class. I'm going to send out another list of study guides soon.